Welcome back to Conservative News. Today, we're diving into an issue that affects all Americans' FISA reform and the fight against government overreach. Congressman Guy Reschenthaler recently questioned Chairman Andy Biggs about the reauthorization of FISA and whether it truly protects Americans' constitutional rights. And let me tell you, folks, the stakes couldn't be higher. Chairman Biggs hit the nail on the head. The intelligence community has been weaponized before. Remember the Obama-era spying scandals? The government used Section 702 to gather Americans' private information, all under the guise of foreign surveillance. But this new legislation? It demands warrants, increases oversight, and makes sure that we, the people, have a say.
You are using Section 702, they were using it as a weapon to spy. And so what we've done is when you put a warrant in place, Section 702 in particular is dealing with acquiring communications data for foreign persons in foreign countries. Invariably, there's going to be U.S. citizens' information swept up in there. They were using that and going forward on that. And by having a warrant, we actually intercept that negative process. On the overall FISA, though, in Title I, for instance, by increasing, as Mr. Nadler pointed out, the scope of the amici to be.
And let's not forget the unelected bureaucrats, the deep state career officials pushing regulation after regulation with zero accountability. Biggs rightly pointed out that the administrative state is like a fourth branch of government, undermining the will of the people. Just take the Department of Health and Human Services' over 2,000 rules issued from 2001 to 2017 by people Americans never voted for. That's not democracy. That's a government running wild. So, what's the solution? We need reforms that bring power back to elected officials, the people we actually vote for. We need transparency, accountability, and real checks on government power. Because if we don't, the deep state will continue its grip on our nation. And that, my friends, is the real threat to our democracy. America stands at a crossroads. Do we let unelected officials dictate our future? Or do we fight for a government that actually represents us? Drop a comment below. Do you trust the government to protect your rights? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Conservative News for the latest on this and more.
You're going to have more assistance by the amicus process. But more than that, what we do that's really different than the other side, than the other bill, is we actually allow members of Congress to go in to any proceeding by FISC, so you can actually oversee and come back and report and make lucid legislative changes.
So, Mr. Biggs, it's my understanding that this legislation will both protect our constitutional rights with the process you just described, but it'll still help keep us safe from terrorist activity, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the way you do that is we provide exceptions. So if there's a credible imminent threat and the analyst decides we have to go ahead and query so we can protect somebody, they can move forward. They've used the example, for instance, of a general who is protected by because of the use of 702 data. But what you could have done is you could have obtained consent, and we specifically make an exception through consent to get that information go forward.
What's the mechanism to protect a situation where somebody just views every situation as an exigent circumstance? What protection is there for that?
Well, you can get punished for that. You can have criminal and civil liabilities. The amicus is designed hopefully to be there, but also by having more legislative control. Plus the reporting requirements that I think every quarter. That's what we do. So there's more active reporting requirements, so we can see and follow up on those as well.
Thanks, Chairman Biggs. I appreciate it. Before I go on to HR 357, Chairman Nadler, do you have anything you want to add on the FISA reauthorization?
No, I think Chairman. I think Mr. Biggs has said it very well. The Judiciary Committee bill, by imposing warrant requirements and doing the other things we've talked about, protects civil liberties at the same time as protecting the security of the country. The HIPC bill is a, what's the word I'm looking for? Is an illusion. It doesn't protect civil liberties at all. And Mr. Biggs went into some of the details of why it doesn't. I'm not going to repeat them, but for all the reasons he stated, and I could add a few, it doesn't protect civil liberties, and it's an illusion. And in particular, an 8-year reauthorization. We have never reauthorized FISA for anything near that length of time.
Well, I just want to thank both of you gentlemen for all the work you put into this, and I think a lot of us appreciate it. I just want to hit on 357 before we move on. So to shift gears, Chairman Biggs, as you know, we're here in the middle of D.C. It's one of the most liberal cities, if not the most liberal cities in the United States. Most of the people here work as unelected career bureaucrats, and because of that, there's a lot of bias in regulation. How does this legislation ensure that this bias doesn't damage our nation?
The idea behind this is so that the political appointee who is accountable through politics, through the Republican form of government that we have, to make sure that they'll have accountability. So when you start talking about, and I don't want to ramble on too much, but when you start talking about the bureaucracy, both Democrats and Republican administrations have expressed frustration with the ability to get things done because the bureaucracy itself has become the fourth branch of government, the administrative state, and we're now trying to say, just to initiate and sign off on a regulation, you need to have that political appointees, so there's accountability. That's it. We're looking for transparency and accountability. That's the nature of it.
Thanks. And in your remarks, you were talking about if you were to stack up all these regulations, it would be so high. Just to put it in perspective, from 2001 to 2017, over 2,000 rules were issued at the Department of Health and Human Services. And again, that's by unelected career bureaucrats. The American people have no say in who they are. They're not accountable to anybody. Do you think that that's a threat to democracy?
Well, absolutely. And during that, by the way, same period, FDA, 96% of regulations came out from those guys, that dealing with those products. And so, yeah, it gets away from us as elected representatives, and this is trying to at least bring that back to some semblance of representative government.
Again, I appreciate all your work on this. I've got more questions, but for the sake of time, I'm going to yield back.
Sure. Thanks, gentlemen.